All right, welcome back to the Squid Talk podcast. Huge guest today, Rob Oliver. You go by Rob or Robert?
Rob.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My dad's name is Rob, by the way.
Sounds like a good guy.
Yeah, he is a good guy. But yeah, I'm super excited for this podcast. Kind of came out of nowhere, but we got this awesome setup. We're in Rob's house here in Puerto Rico. Dude's a stud. You got the life that probably any guy my age or younger looks up to. Like, not only is it just like success in terms of money, but I've had a lot of opportunities to meet successful entrepreneurs, and a lot of them are nerdy or really lack socially, or just aren't very like balanced, well-rounded.
Yeah.
And you seem like you have that. So take us back to the beginning, man. Like, has it always been this way? I know I saw pictures of you from day one. You look like kind of a boner, honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
So was I.
I wasn't always balanced, obviously, and I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
Super late bloomer. Like I grew 2 inches after high school, so I played basketball growing up, and really just got like fucked up in that world. Like, it was super humbling. I'm this 5'3" little white kid who can't move his feet, and I'm wanting to play varsity basketball, and maybe I was the wrong color at the time. I don't know. Like, that's how it played out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just kind of stayed at it, and we shouldn't even get too into basketball. That was like a whole different chapter of my life. But anyways, had a growth spurt after high school, met my wife, and fell into the business world. Where do you want me to start?
Nice. Well, I think so. For a little background, we're enjoying a cigar right now, celebrating good times, looking forward to better ones. But Rob's a very successful young entrepreneur. You sold the company for $30 million, am I right?
Correct. The Genius brand. That was my first go.
So that was your first big hit. Still going at it. I think what I'd like to know personally is, where did the entrepreneurial drive start? Were you a kid hustling, or did this come way later, after sports, after college?
Yeah, I always knew there was no chance I was ever going to work for someone. Like, period. Like, I'd rather be that guy on the street homeless before I clock in. Like, I always just felt that way. And so I had that in me. That didn't necessarily translate to success, but as I'm moving through college, I started looking at like different business opportunities. Like, where's the money being made? I'm 31 now, right? So this is like early. I didn't fall into the whole, like, Ty Lopez was just doing his here in my garage thing around then. And I kind of avoided that, and then just fell into Amazon. And I love supplements at the time. Like, part of my whole life mission has been, with this internet era and with all these tools at our fingertips, we should be able to live for a living. Like, we should. Like, you get to do it. You're building your brand. You're traveling. You're meeting people you want to talk to. You are literally living for a living. Mm-hmm. And I think every young person, if they pursue entrepreneurship, should be able to do that in some capacity. And so for me, I really liked supplements. I loved working out. Like, that was kind of my thing. It gave me an advantage basketball-wise. Like, I was like, if I can outwork people, if I can outtrain them and give myself some form of advantage, it'll advance me. And so that led me to supplements. When I graduated college, I was looking for something to do, saw Amazon, and I was like, I wonder if supplements can sell on here. And long story short, I started shadowing my uncle, who was making like a shit ton of money, or what I thought was a shit ton of money at the time. And I don't think my uncle's that bright. And this guy's like, bought a new boat, all this stuff. So I'm like, whatever he's doing is something I should be looking at. And he was on Amazon. And so kind of hung around him for like a year, and ultimately fell into that supplement world. Like, I was like, maybe I can help companies sell on here. So I guess I kind of became an agency. Like, I would call up all the brands I like to take their stuff, and I was like, are you selling on Amazon? They're like, no, we don't know what that is. I would get them listed. They thought I was this Amazon expert because they're doing, $100,000, paying me my commission.
Yeah.
But
you didn't know what you were doing at first, right?
Really no fucking idea.
Yeah.
I'm this 22-year-old kid who's like, this Amazon thing's interesting. They don't know Amazon. They're a big company. Let me see if I can get them on there. And I was getting them results. Like, and then my curiosity led to like, okay, how do we get reviews? How do we, what does changing the title do for me? And I just slowly poured into that world. And the gratification was I was like becoming something in that industry. Eventually I'd start getting calls like, hey, we hear you're making brand X, this on Amazon. What's up? I was like, oh, I can help you. And that's kind of how I got my start.
And then for your own business, actually, let me ask a different question first. Was that intimidating to you? Like, this was right after college, right? Or was this in college?
No, it was right after college.
I think a lot of people, mostly young kids, they look at someone who's successful, whether it's someone like yourself or someone much older, someone who runs a massive company, whatever, or even someone in any field, an athlete, an actor, And I think it's very easy to get into this mindset of like, oh, that person just always knew what they were doing. This person always knew the right path.
Yeah,
they had the answers. You kind of just jumped into it.
I jumped in. I still remember, like, one of the biggest things was having the balls to pick up the phone and call these companies. So I would send out just mass emails. Like, I would, Google, I'd find their LinkedIn, I'd find their VP of sales, and I'd craft these long emails. And for every 10 I'd send, maybe I'd get one response. And then getting them on the phone was like the next big thing, So I remember I'd just pound a bunch of like pre-workout or whatever and get all fired up and get on there and do my best.
Yeah.
And eventually it led to success.
Nice. I know that I kind of just mentioned this, but my uncle is an entrepreneur too, and he built this. He worked for the same guy 20 years, left his company, started his own, and he sat in front of the phone for like 3 or 4 days. Just sat there, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Couldn't pick up the phone. Right, and he called me, and he's like, "Bro, I don't know how to do this. Like, this is extremely intimidating. It is, right? Trying to sell yourself, trying to face rejection. How do you think you got over that, or is it just like you have to do it?
Stimulants.
Yeah,
stimulants. I mean, you have to get in. I still remember the butterflies. I remember all of that. But I think if you remind yourself, like, the alternative is going and being someone's bitch or whatever. Like, and like those are your two options. Like, learn how to be who you need to be and communicate, and it gets easier when you are delivering value. I could get brands listed on there, and it was a good opportunity for them, and so there's a good value proposition, but it just comes with experience. It's reps. Content, it's reps, right? The more podcasts you do, the better you're going to get on a podcast. The more short form videos you do, the more you're going to get at it, and starting an entrepreneurship is the same thing. There's reps. Nice.
And I like how you just said, right, living for a living, but I think a lot of younger people get in this kind of dream world of like, I don't want to have to work, passive income. I don't really believe in that. You do have to put in the work. I'm curious, what did you have to sacrifice? Because I know I saw some videos of yours. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Didn't you lock yourself in a room for like 5 years pretty much? So most people can't even wait till the weekend. You know what I mean? What did you have to sacrifice to build at the beginning?
So two parts on that. I think once you're aligned to be able to quote unquote live for a living, like I locked myself in a room for 3 years building Genius. Like, straight up in a computer, a computer, I never had an office. Like, I had my team or whatever, but all remote. I'd wake up, I'd have my coffee, I'd go sit at the desk. I would hardly see the sunlight. And, at the time it was very enjoyable because I was building something I liked. I liked supplements. I liked that whole world. Like, I liked the biohacking thing. And so to me, it was still living for a living. But the average person looks at that and they go, you're fucking crazy, right? You're working 100 hours a week, you're tweaking, you haven't got a haircut, like, what's going on, And that really was what it took, and I don't have a lot of regrets with that. Like, it allowed me to get the business to a place where I could step away and work on myself more. But at no time did I really feel like I was doing anything other than pursuing what I was supposed to be pursuing, my purpose, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of people... the fact that you just said that you enjoyed putting in all those hours, you enjoyed, like, what you were building was so much more enjoyable, so much more important than the distraction, like going out or hanging with your friends or drinking, whatever, traveling.
I think the hard part is like the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Because everyone else, they fall off. Like, first they judge you, and then they kind of like, you have friends that, okay, he's clearly not getting back to me, and like there's that social pressure. But that goes away. Like, if you're committed to it, people just stop reaching out. Which is, it shouldn't make you, it's like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But if you can get through those first couple months of like locking in and becoming what you're supposed to, the rest of it tends to work out how it's supposed to.
Yeah, so you would say you were obsessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Nice, okay.
Yeah.
What
Shout
about
out to my guy, Zach.
Huh?
Shout out to my guy, Zach.
Who's Zach?
He's the obsession guy. You see him on Twitter?
No.
Oh, he's made this whole personal brand obsession. I'll show you later.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's extremely important, and I think a lot of people... Even myself, like when I started, I think every young kid wants to be an entrepreneur because they want to get rich.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is this dream of a world where you can buy all the things you want to buy and do all the things you want to do. But you do have to actually enjoy the day-to-day work you're putting in. And there was actually this great Jake Paul clip I just saw. He's talking about how all these people ask him, like, how do you build a life for yourself? And he said it was pretty simple. Just pick whatever you really enjoy. And you're not going to make a lot of money at it first. But then if you really do like it, you're going to become obsessed. You're going to try and figure out how can I do this one little bit better every single day. And then all of a sudden you are a CEO. You are building something. And it started with you for, right, like health optimization, right? like genuinely caring about supplements, because you can't really, like, you can make money off supplements if they're dog shit, but ultimately, like, if you seriously want to have a big exit, you have to have a valuable brand.
Yeah.
Can you take us a little bit into, like, a lot of people out there will DM me, how do you start a business, right? And obviously there is no easy answer to that. It's so individual, it's so different, but, like, could you take us through the process of what that was like, right? Finding suppliers, all that.
Yeah, my specific brand?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like how I did it. Because people ask me this a lot. How do I start with, like, a lot of people don't have the resources to start a brand. So how do I start with very little money, or how do I get going with very little money? And, I started as kind of that agency. I was helping these brands sell on Amazon. Like, that was my start. And so I'm getting close to the business. So if I had to go back, like, that's how I learned everything. That's how I learned these guys manufacturers. That's how I learned, what the internal workings of their companies look like. Like, do they have, a graphic designer? Like, how's the label made? How's the FDA stuff work? So I had close experience. So when I, took my money and said, okay, I'm going to go start my own thing, I had some money saved. I knew my skills, and I knew how the industry worked. I knew all three of those things, which reduced my chance of failure, like, dramatically, and so I think for young people, either go work under someone that you'd, want to build like one day, or do what I did, develop those skills and then sell them out to similar, companies with, yeah.
Also relationships too. I'm sure that was important. Like, if you ever had questions, you knew exactly who to hit up for an answer, right?
You start developing them. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that comes from the skills. I think like one thing that I don't talk about enough is how much time I dedicated towards figuring out Amazon. Like, I was the Amazon algorithm expert. Like, if there was a video on YouTube, I'd seen it. If there was a way to get reviews, I'd seen it. I'd A/B test it. I had done all these things so that if someone had a question on Amazon, they would come to me regardless of how, successful they were. Like, that was still that guy had the knowledge, and you give that knowledge, and therefore you develop a relationship with someone that, you can build with.
And then after that, so you start the brand, you start obviously getting your samples, you start selling. How quickly did it start to take off?
Oh, we were profitable like month one.
Nice.
Like, literally, I had the Amazon playbook. We launched up there. I knew what I was doing, and it was off to the races.
Did you ever have any period when things were going really well, and then all of a sudden everything went to shit, or was it pretty, a solid ride until the exit?
No, bro, the craziest. So Amazon's a bitch, like, straight up. It's a black box, and you're not dealing with people, and it's algorithm. So in 2018, we had just crossed the 10 million mark, and I hired my friends.
And revenue?
And revenue.
And how long after inception was that?
This was year 3.
Okay, nice.
Year
10
3.
million in 3 years. That's great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
But I wake up I left the business for the first time to go get married. I'm in Ireland. We had decided to elope internationally. This is literally my first time away from the business. This is after sitting at a computer for, like, multiple years straight. In the middle of the night, Amazon starts deleting reviews off my best-selling products. And for those of you that don't know Amazon, if you don't have reviews, you don't sell, period.
Absolutely.
And they took 3 products down all the way to 0 reviews and locked it. You couldn't get any new reviews on 3 of my best sellers. And we're sitting there like, what the fuck? And, I'm calling my team, which is just really my close friends. No one can figure out what's going on. And on the day after I got married, we lost 20% of our business. The next Tuesday,
that'll mess up a honeymoon.
That'll fuck up a honeymoon. And then the next, we weren't going to honeymoon because my wife knows, like, she's about it. Like, business, like, we were going to get married and straight back to the business anyway.
Yeah.
Then the next week, 2 more products. Fast forward a month. The same thing happens on a Tuesday. For a month, I lose half of my business. It's not just me, though. It's across Amazon. So several other big brands got fucked. Like, people are just, like, it was like this doomsday situation. And so we're sitting there. I remember there was like $1 million in the bank. I was like, man, I could, like, take my ball, go home, be a millionaire. Like, life's good.
$1 million isn't that much, though. Obviously,
it wasn't.
I mean,
but again, to a kid without, like, a lot of money, it was like, it still was cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like back then $1 million was, I'm getting older, man. But this is pre-COVID insane inflation. But anyways, I remember thinking that, like, or keep at it, whatever. And long story short, we decided, a lot of brands folded. We decided to double down. So we looked at every category where the other leaders were fucked because they had lost their reviews. And we launched new products in those categories during that time. And that ended up being 3 of my best sellers. That was like Genius Mushrooms, which does $10 million a year, Genius Sleep Aid, like a bunch of products during that time. While everyone else was melting down, we doubled down Fast forward 8 months, we got all of those other products back. Amazon admitted it was a mistake. They gave us our reviews back. We're back at full strength there. And the business went from like 10 million run rate to, I think the next year we did over 25 million.
Wow.
And so that was like I went from like thinking life was over and like I was an embarrassment and this is melting down in front of me. I was riding high to like, okay, we're back, and that's entrepreneurship.
And why? Yeah, I think people like to look at life like a roller coaster that just keeps going up. But in reality, I forget who told me this analogy, but they said life is like a mountain, right? And you will climb, and then you'll get to a peak, and the view will be the best you've ever seen because you're as high as you've ever gotten. But what happens when you hit a peak? It's just down, right? Yeah. And you go down, and then all of a sudden you hit this ravine or whatever, and you think like the world is ending. Why me? You know, what now? Why is this happening? But that allows you the chance to reset and keep climbing.
Yeah.
Did you ever even figure out why Amazon fucked you guys?
Well, what they did, they ran an algorithm. No one ever told us directly, but they just ran an algorithm that thought it was analyzing any products with X amount of fake reviews.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was like a crazy bot. And it nailed some people that probably should have got nailed. They never got their stuff back, but we got caught up in all of that.
And so you started it in what year, right?
Started 2015.
2015. What year did you exit?
2019.
2019. So 4 years, 30 million. I saw one video about it. Can you go through what's that experience like selling your business, right? I'm not there yet. I don't even know if I would ever want to, right? How do you come to terms with the idea of like, you know, I'm giving up the thing I've worked on for so long, but I do, you know, there's a positive and a negative to it, I assume.
Yeah, you know, in hindsight too, I'll say, I won't say it's a mistake, but if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have sold. Because building a business of that size and scale that keeps making, you know, $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year is like one of the best assets I think you can have.
Yeah.
And so I did panic on that front. You know, we had a lot of internal stuff with the team. People were worried about their roles, wanting more. I just kind of got to a point where I was like done with it, which again was just I just wasn't experienced enough. So to any of your like, younger audience, you know, if they build a business of that size, like, take a second, appreciate what you have. Because I'm doing it again, right? And I'm reminded how much work it is to get from zero to that scale.
It's the hardest part.
It's a very hard part. Yeah. And then once you're at that part, it's actually probably easier to take it to 100. And so, anyways, that whole process is selling a business in double-digit millions and then even, you know, triple-digit millions from what I've heard from friends and whatnot. It's nasty. You're going through an M&A process, mergers and acquisitions, which is just, you're trying to run and grow your business with the understanding that every single thing you do is going to get picked apart and put under a microscope, and you're going to need to answer all these questions. And so you're essentially signing up for another job while simultaneously trying to build and scale in a way that doesn't offend the buyer, right? Like you need to keep growing, you need to keep the lights on, and you need to do that for about 6 months.
Like crazy test. That's a crazy challenge.
Yeah, it is. It's not, and that's why there's a world for like investment bankers and all these highly paid people that come in and help with that process. We didn't do any of that. We did it all internally. So it's like me and my COO who are just, you know, going back and forth with this private equity firm, on the phone with attorneys, all while trying to run the business. And you couple that with what I just told you about waking up one day and half of my business being gone, it created a lot of anxiety. Like it's like, oh, this could, you know, what happens if the review wipes happen again in the middle of this? The deal's screwed, right? And so that created this that messed me up a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it built character as a man. So
yeah, absolutely. You move forward and you know, now if you do want to exit another business, you have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
But I think so many people look at like this idea of an exit and a big payday as like this glorious, like, you know, finish line experience. I'm done, right? Everyone's waiting, cheering for you, but it's nasty. It sounds nasty.
You know, it's a brutal fucking process for sure.
And then how did that end? How much equity did you have in the business, by the way?
I owned all of it.
You got all of it, so you got that 30 million.
I had two of my friends who I ended up giving a nice chunk to, and then took care of a couple other people, but I was the sole owner.
How much was it taxed?
I think I paid like $6 million in tax.
Wow, what's that like?
Horrible. That's why I'm here in Puerto Rico.
No, obviously the tax too, but what's that like? Like finally, like. How does that work? I've heard some founders get a check, some get a wire, some it takes a really long time. They have to slowly sell off their stock.
It's a wire. You
just got a wire right to your bank account. 30.
And it wasn't 30 on the. So I sold. I don't even know if I could like directly say the numbers. I sold majority, and then 2 years later they bought out almost rest of it, and then a couple months ago I sold the very end of it.
Wow. But what is that? What's that feeling like when you? That's something that so many like it's not even imaginable
When you
because
look, you
so
see
many people
double-digit
could.
millions in your
Yeah,
bank
to
account.
just like find like get the text or the notification, your Chase
Yeah.
app, whatever bank you are.
Now
Like,
you just sit there refreshing it all day
Yeah.
until it shows up. But no, it's awesome. It really is. It was a special. You know, on one hand, it's like really incredible, and then the next day, it's kind of like okay,
Nowhere.
yeah, life goes on.
Wow.
So I can say like both of those. 'Cause I do remember like the thrill of like, wow, this is like insane, right? And then the next day, it's kind of like, okay, it takes you years to figure out what to even do with it.
That's what I was gonna ask. Is what was the first thing? By the way, did you have a kid yet at that point?
Yeah, that was part of the reason I wanted to sell. My daughter was no, I didn't. My daughter was born 3 months after.
Wow. So, but I'm sure that seeing that wire hit your account probably gave you.
Yeah, confidence.
I'm assuming like a feeling of like, okay, my family's safe.
Definitely.
At the end, like everyone wants the watch or the car or whatever, but at the end of the day, like there is no better reward. I can only assume, right? That's why I'm in this. There is no better reward than like knowing, wow, like my last name is set, right? At least relatively,
100%.
right?
No, 100%.
So, yeah, where's your wife with you at that point, and you're just like, okay, we did it. Like we can take a little bit off the gas now.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, definitely. It was exactly like that. It's like,
Nice.
okay, let's recalibrate. I took like a year off, bro, and like I still was employed by the company, but I like went on a whole yoga thing and like.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's really necessary. Obviously, I haven't done that yet, but who was it? I was listening to it was either a book or an audio book the other day, and some founder, it might have been Peter Thiel, he was saying how important it is to take a decent amount of time off, 6 months to 18 months after a big exit to like really
Just recalibrate.
Yeah, recalibrate, exactly. Recharge. Think about what's most important, what you're going to focus on next. But, you said your wife was with you this entire time. You met her when you were broke, right?
Yeah.
First building.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that a lot myself. We were just talking about this whole, concept of, finding the one early on, whatever. I think getting hot girls is cool, and, more of that will definitely happen. The more famous you get, the more wealthy you get, the more powerful you get, the more established you become. But ultimately, I think that is like the dream scenario, right? Meeting some girl, she sees you while you're poor, you build this thing together, you build a life together. And even the dude I had on my podcast like a week ago, he was saying if a girl loves you while you're poor, she's going to really love you when you're successful because she's seeing you build. Do you have any advice on, even for a guy like me or anyone watching, right? How do you go about finding that person to give them the power to destroy you, essentially? Because finding the wrong person can be absolutely detrimental.
Often is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, because I see I see your life. My business partner's young in Miami, making a ton of money. Like
Yeah.
I see a lot of younger friends who are at that phase where you guys. The reality is there's not a lot of established guys. Like just the ratio of guys that are making X and in shape and all that is like very small compared to a lot of women, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can get a lot of what you want. And so how much of that are you willing to sacrifice, Because I like you guys are living good, fun lives. Like I didn't do that at your age. You know what I mean? And
You'd probably be surprised by this, but I don't go like out and party or sleep around or anything. I definitely did that in college. Like I was talking to you about it. I was fraternity president. I went into college. Literally, my main goal going into college, I had several family members that had they're studs. My dad, my uncle, my stepdad, absolutely insane stories when it comes to girls. One of them has a treasure chest at his house full of love letters.
Okay,
and
nice.
he opened it one time, it overflowed, and all of them were unopened, and we just went through them, and it was like, I don't want to say his name, but it's like, I haven't stopped thinking about you, like, since that one time we met, right? Back then, you had letters, not phone numbers.
Yeah.
But so seeing this, these really good-looking, really cool, social, awesome guys. I was going into college, U of A, big party school. Let's rack it up. Like my priority going into college was body count.
Numbers on the scoreboard.
Yeah. That very quickly went away. I very quickly realized like this is so dumb. But I did have a great time in college, and to a lot of girls like that will piss them off. And honestly, rightfully so. Like, I wouldn't want a girl that was absolutely sleeping around either. And I learned that lesson very quickly. The thrill went away. That was one of the reasons why I was pretty done with college at the end. But in my experience, like, a lot of girls don't even like want that focused guy right now. I feel like that's intimidating to them. Or maybe the wrong girls, I guess.
No, they're the wrong girls. Yeah, 100%. And because I feel like my wife saw that in me super young. We got together when I was 19.
Yeah, where'd you meet her, by the way?
In college.
Oh, nice.
In college. And so, like, it just, we hadn't been alive that long,
Yeah.
period. And so it worked out from that perspective. But I see, I don't know, I've just, over the last couple of years, I've gotten a lot more, like, familiar with the dating scene out there and, like, what goes on. And I hear all these stories. And, like, I think most women, because this is one of the things. Most women aren't rational. And the biological wiring today doesn't want them to make a man great, like in today's world. If you get like the normal woman today, she's gonna try to reduce your desirability to make her more yours. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, the less desirable you are, the more
more power she has.
The more power she has. And so I see that everywhere. And see, my wife's just not like that. Like, she jumped in early before I even knew, but it was just like, how I think women are best when they're making a man excellent. And that might sound misogynist or whatever, but like that's like that whole feminine masculine energy thing is real. And if you're looking for like that optimal flow, it's often there.
Yeah.
And so I don't think these wife types are going to be on social media. I don't think they're going to be in Miami. I don't think they're generally Western raised, so to speak, in today's world. And that makes it really tough. So I don't know where exactly you'll find them, but I know where you won't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Actually, I very much agree with you. And I think that's totally reasonable and fine. Everyone has their own, what's the word? Everyone has what they're looking for in mind. And if you're a girl and you want to be the breadwinner, you want to be the ambitious, successful one, and you want your husband to stay home and cook and clean, like, that's totally fine too. I think a lot of people hear what you just said, because I say similar stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they get really offended. But everyone has similar interests, and I think you just need to be honest with that. And it's just like people have different preferences for looks. You have different preferences for, the kind of relationship you want. But, I do meet a lot of guys my age, a lot of my friends who are, young and ambitious and getting after it, and they're all putting dating aside because they're like, I don't know, like, finding the wrong person, once again, can be detrimental. So I think that's dope that you found that early on. And I think, I don't know, looking back on it, like, do you have any regrets at all?
No, I really
Nice.
don't. No.
How important is finding the right person to becoming the best version of yourself?
I consider myself a pretty intelligent guy, like, in general, like, naturally or whatever, or have grown into that. And again, that's not a thing to be arrogant, but I have another friend who's also, like, highly intelligent, and I think we have a lot of similarities. He built and sold an Amazon business for a bunch of money, and he's in jail right now. And his whole thing is
really?
He's never had a sound girl, and so his whole dopamine wiring is all fucked up, and he's chasing the next short-term thing, and it's just really created, like, I think with successful people and intelligent people and driven people, there's a real balance between, like, genius and psychotic, and I think a woman is often the tipping point. Like how many great minds have gotten a fucked up relationship and has sent them over the edge, And
Have you ever read the Art of Seduction?
No.
He talks all about that. He talks about the different types of he talks about the different type of men and the different type of women and how they mesh well together. You ever seen, like, a beautiful girl but it just didn't do it for you, and then your friends are all like, bro, she's so hot, whatever. Everyone has different types, and it's because of personality types they mesh well together.
Wait, is this the Robert Greene book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same 48 Laws of Power, same author.
Yeah.
But he pretty much he talks about how some of the most powerful and dominant men in history, Napoleon, Julius Caesar, their downfall, they might have died, they might have been shot, they might have been killed or assassinated, or in Napoleon's case, exiled. But a lot of people don't think of this. Their downfall started with their mate.
Yeah.
And it was because, for whatever reason, these guys were, ferociously, like, attached to this person, and they were not what's best for them. But it's really interesting. You should check it out. It's a very obviously Robert Greene is remarkable.
I'll put a theory. I want to get your take on this theory because I've been thinking about it a lot. I think most things, because biologically our number one instinct is to reproduce, period. Like that is, and so I think you can distill most motivations to man's desire to reproduce. It's the reason we dress the way we do, why we go to the gym, why we want power, money, success, all of those things. It's an inherent desire to reproduce. And like you look at like a Bezos, you know, like I think it's like the conquering, the women, it's like and it never ends.
Yeah.
Right? Like he took a professional athlete's wife or whatever, you know? Like,
yeah. Wait, I didn't know that.
I don't know the whole story. Like Lauren Sanchez she was married to Tony Gonzalez or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know the whole whatever, but I think all things can literally be distilled to that. Like
Absolutely.
you look at like are you a hip hop guy at all?
Not really. I've always been house, but know, familiar.
Like you know Drake, right?
Yeah.
Like Drake's evolution. My theory is he's directly competing. Rappers are competing against NBA players for the same girls, and NBA guys are dressing more like rappers, and rappers are trying to make more money. And you look at Drake's probably the top of that food chain. He's amassed hundreds of millions of dollars, and I seriously, I think you can look through it with a biological lens and say who is the most desirable male, and I think you can often see what that's what's driving people, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean I fully agree with you, and that's why I'm asking so many questions on like the relationship you have, because I think why do guys want so much money, right? Like you're motivated by money at the beginning, but ultimately it is to have as many options as possible, right?
I think it is.
It is the only thing that matters. Yeah. But that's why I think if you can find that person early on, like that's so special, because you don't have to. Obviously, it's still a fight every day to please them, to keep them around, as it should be. You should always be fighting for each other, right? But I can only imagine like how great that must be to know that your partner, the one you're supposed to end up with, or whatever the one, if people want to call it, is with you already, and you can kind of like focus together on building, as opposed to like issue around the corner.
So what I have, issue around the corner. So what I have is unique is a very rational wife. So I haven't like talked about this like super publicly, but it's kind of like I can do whatever I want in our relationship. Yeah. Like she doesn't. Her theory is what I just said. Like men are supposed to be building and growing and conquering, and if not, it ties back to what I said of they're getting worse. Mm-hmm. Like how many guys do you see that end up in a relationship and then get soft and doughy and fucking trashed?
Yeah,
most like that's what happens. And so in our house, like she comes at it from a very like biological standpoint. Like you're at your best business wise if you're generally desirable to women.
Yeah.
So hit the gym, like, what do they call it, a hall pass or whatever? Like she lets me like.
Do you guys have an open relationship?
No, not an open relationship.
Oh, okay. She
doesn't fuck anybody.
Yeah.
But I'm allowed to do what I want.
Yeah.
And she knows it's better that way.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like she knows it's better that way because you're in the same thing for 10 years. You get sedentary and you get content, or you keep pushing and you keep growing. And like, again, from an evolutionary perspective, sex is the center of that.
Yeah.
So if like, and the funny part is like, as that's kind of opened up in our world, I mean, she'll tell you, like, I've become more attractive to her because other like things want me.
Yeah.
Like it's a funny setup. And again, it's not like a big open public thing or whatever, but we're kind of going in that direction with this conversation. And it's like, again, like I'm not out there, like I'm not like, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
But that's like a known thing, like in our world. She has everything she wants. She's got comfort, stability, a great home. Like I'm never leaving. And on the flip side of that, like she knows I'm a fucking guy.
Yeah.
And like it's just how it goes.
Well, I appreciate you being honest about that and saying that. I've actually never I've never had like that kind of conversation with another person before. It's rare to find, obviously, or at least people that are open and honest about it.
I just don't think it's talked about. I think again, on the other side of that, most women lack rational thought. Like I had this little like, I guess it's a girlfriend or something, I don't know, and just retarded, bro, just retarded. Like there was no like, I can't even begin to like put it in. That's why I say I have a little more experience. Like I have different views of this whole thing. And I think 9 out of 10 women would never rationally come to that conclusion.
Well, most guys are like, what's the word? I mean, I would say majority of guys are not all there either, right? They're delusional as well. They think they deserve the perfect treatment, or you talk to most guys these days and you ask them like, what's your plan? What do you want to do? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be successful. I'm like, what are you doing? Nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I think my personal opinion is there is an equal percentage of women and men that are both like delusional in terms of like what is realistic in their life.
Yeah, probably.
Curious your thoughts
I
on
don't know.
that.
I don't fall too into the, like I said, at the end of the day, there's a very small percentage of guys that appeal to almost all of the women.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess on that note, like most guys, I don't know if most fall into like the whole incel thing or whatever, or some are like realistic, like I need to level up. But like the actual guys that have tens of millions of dollars and are in shape and like do all the check all the boxes, there's just not a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, so that's an interesting point because I fully agree. I think you're absolutely right. But I think a lot of guys like to look at girls for one thing and one thing only, and that's attractiveness. Yeah. You think of, oh, there's a lot of hot girls out there, right?
Yeah.
But how many hot girls are out there that are also ambitious, that are also driven, that are also, hold high standards and values for themselves, right? I think actually girls are better to look at the whole picture. That's why you see a very attractive girl with a not so good looking guy, because they're ranking them not just on a scale of attractiveness like guys do to girls, but the whole picture, right? How driven is he? Is he funny? Is he kind? Is he responsible? Is he going to protect me, right? Whereas a lot of guys, most guys, even ones that tend to be successful, they look at one thing and one thing only, looks.
Yeah.
And those are usually the women that end up being the downfall of those guys. And it's kind of the guy's fault for picking them.
100%.
So I do, in general, I think, you talk about the most desirable man who's not only successful but well-balanced and good-looking and takes care of himself. Like, there is a small section of girls out there as well that are like that. But there's a lot of hot girls that don't have those things. And so I think that's what a lot of young guys need to understand. And it's something that fucked with me for a long time too. Like, you do see the hot girl with the great body and you think like, oh, that's a dub. Like that's what I wanted. Right. But in reality, like, if you were to rank everything else, values, kindness, responsibility, drive, like those are lacking.
They usually don't go together.
Yeah.
They usually don't.
I think so. It's hard to find always around, but let's pivot a little bit. So you sell your company, you've made it to a lot of people. And you kind of just touched on this, you are someone that's not enough, right? I think it's very rare for someone to create a wildly successful company and not be the type of person that wants to keep going after that, right? Because the people that are okay with just one win and then they stop right there, they usually aren't that successful. Whereas the ones that create these big companies usually sell them, they have a little period of recharge, like you said, and then they get after it again. What was that experience like for you after those, 6 months, 12 months you spent?
I mean, it ended up all in all being like closer to 18 months between
18 months?
yoga, and then that's when the pandemic hit, so it was just kind of like a weird time period, and I had to decide what I wanted to do. And I mean, at the end of the day, like the real question is like what the fuck are we doing here in general, like on this earth?
Glad you brought that up.
Right? It's like what are we doing here? And like my whole thing I'm screaming nowadays is just like I love that idea of LifeMaxxing. Like that tends to kind of solve that. Like if we're not trying to max out our stats and experience everything we can experience and learn as much as we can and not be like, not numb ourselves, but like just be there for all of it and see what we can do, then I don't think there's like a point of even attempting this game of life personally.
I think that's how you find the most fulfillment and happiness. But what a lot of people might not understand is I don't think there is such thing. You talk about LifeMaxxing. I don't think there is such thing as a max stat.
No, there's not.
The climb always continues, right? It always gets better. You might sell the current company you're working on for $200 million. Yeah, sure, you might enjoy yourself, right? Go on a 5-year bender this time. Who knows? Maybe not. But you're probably going to go at it again and start something else. Maybe it's not even for the money this time. Maybe it's just like some sort of charity or
and frankly, I don't think it should ever be like even, and I don't ever want that to come off wrong, but like you give me $1 billion even, and it's not like it can't. None of this can be for the money, because that will all like, I mean, it'll really be gone.
Yeah.
Like it'll be awesome to sell a company for $1 billion, or have that title. But for me, it's like, can you be on the fucking New Year's party in St. Bart's? Can you see F1 at Monaco? Like to me, that is the reason for those numbers, just to experience I want to experience the greatest things that society has to offer.
Yeah.
And if I don't like them, then I'll pivot and go find something else, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so with that being said, you're at this point now where you've gotten your first big win, right? Was that hard to get back into it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like getting really big in the gym, doing a bodybuilding competition. Let's say you win, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to eat like shit and enjoy myself, take, 8 weeks off. It's hard to get back into it, right? What was that like?
It is. I mean, you see guys all the time. McGregor is I'm a huge McGregor guy. And we know McGregor will never fight at the same level because the hunger's gone. I mean, he has $1 billion and he's training on his yacht now. He's not in the confinements of that original little Ireland gym, But that being said, let's pray he's all right and doesn't have like a real cocaine problem. But if not, he's experiencing life, right? It looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's just an adaptation. And eventually I came to peace with that. Like I used to be the guy that Jimmy is now, right? My business partner on TikTok. He's phenomenal at that world. People go to him when they want to figure out TikTok. I was that with Amazon. Mm. Now I'm like moved into this, like, I'm the older guy now, like straight up. And so what do I do with that? And I've found it to be a good place. At first it was very frustrating. It's like, I can't be the one that's directly generating this insane alpha anymore. Like I used to put $1 in Amazon and make 10.
Yeah.
But now I'm the guy that has private equity experience. Now I'm the guy that knows how to organize a company. Now I'm the guy that has an appreciation for more of these timeless, business principles that I can take to a guy like Jimmy and say, hey, like, you might have made $1 million this year, but this is how we're going to make 100. Mm-hmm. And to build those relationships and stay, at the forefront of what's happening has been really enjoyable. It really has.
Nice. That's awesome. And so is that the goal right now? Just are you guys planning on scaling and selling what you're currently working on? Or
we're going to go fucking nuts this year.
Huh?
We're going to go fucking nuts this year, across the board. We got, the top shelf, which I've talked about. We've got another brand that's literally 3 times the size of the top shelf that I can't talk about. We got a venture fund. Like we're doing some stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That must be exciting, huh?
It's fun. It's stressful. It's fun, but it's like, it gets you out of bed in the morning.
Sure. Okay. Well, can you talk a little bit about what it's like to, so many people want to know, I think, what it's like. We kind of skipped over it at the beginning, but like when you did have that exit, what was the first thing you bought? How do you not get distracted?
Oh, bro, I didn't have an appreciation for nice stuff then. Like I lived in Seattle, so I had like a $2 million house that was like you're from Bay Area, like that doesn't get you a whole lot.
Yeah,
like,
not
it's
much. Little 3-bedroom.
Yeah,
bedroom.
like whatever. Yeah. And then I actually bought a Tesla, a Model X, that was like $110,000, and I financed it despite having all this cash in the bank because rates were like 2%. Call my financial guy and is like, "Are you gonna do anything else with that money?" I go, "No." He goes, "Pay off the fucking car." So paid off the car. And that was really my only big purchase for like a year. Then I got into yoga. Like I didn't buy my first Rolex until 2 years later. I didn't buy you kind of have to learn how to like.
It's new.
It's new.
Yeah, I'm even, I haven't had my big exit yet or whatever, but I've had money.
You're making good money.
Make good money for the first time in my life, and it was weird. Like I still don't really buy much of anything, to be honest. I'm putting it all back in, right? Stuff like
those
this,
are fresh,
traveling.
Those are fresh.
The Golden Goose are the one thing. Yeah, I have like a couple pairs of Golden Goose. That's the one thing. But bro, I had the same pair of pants for like 4 years. Like I went to Nordstrom's to buy a pair of pants the other day, and I forgot like if the waist size was the first number or the second number. I had to ask her because it had been so long.
Yeah.
And I have a gym clothing brand, so all I wear is gym clothes.
Just means you're building. Like it's a good place to be. It's a good place to be.
But then, how long after you sold did you decide to come down here to Puerto Rico?
Like mid COVID, so it was like 2.5 years after.
And what was the main reason for that? How important is it to switch environments?
Oh, it's fucking everything.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me first ask you that. Yeah. Why'd you come down here?
I came down here because Seattle was going to shit. I remember it was Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone where like the police just gave up and let fucking street people take over this area, and all the protests and all that shit. I'm paying way too much money to
worry about my safety.
Yeah, and so we started looking at like where we want to live, and eventually the Puerto Rico math penciled. Like we flew out here to check it out. It was just starting to boom. The owner of this house had just bought a lot and like made the dude a kind of a cold offer, and we just went for it. It was the first. I'd never left Seattle, so it was my first like, I'd been there 28 years, and so it was my first big change. And then on that note, I know where you're going with it. It's like, how much does environment change you? I think I'd be the same person, bro. Like, I think I'd be the same. Like, my net worth has exponentially grown since I've been here. The doors that have opened, the way I've pushed myself on social, the way I've pushed myself in martial arts, personally, like mixing it up, I think is everything, because we get biologically, like, I use that word a lot, but we get ingrained in these same environments. Like, we give ourselves all this credit as thinkers, but once we develop these habits and routines, they tend to lock themselves in. And so when you're doing that and you're around the same people in Seattle and you're just going through the same routine, it's very hard to find meaningful growth. You might find like a little incremental thing, but if you break that shit and like shatter it to zero, like a whole new beginning. I'll pull up here in Puerto Rico, like whole new beginning. I don't think I would have the confidence to do social media. I was too surrounded by people that made it mentally helped me back.
You're kind of reinventing yourself by stepping into a new pond. Yeah.
You're forced to. There's a Fight Club quote I love, and it's self-improvement is masturbation. Self-destruction is the answer. And how I interpret that is the little, because I like self-improvement, so it's not that, but it's the little incremental, like, okay, now you're making your bed and you're doing this and you're doing that. It's still not going to materially change you if you've been stuck in the same thing. What's going to change you is picking up one day and going to Austin and surrounding yourself by other killers. That's what's going to change you.
Yeah.
Now, how much growth have you had since you moved there?
So much, but I think the biggest thing, and we were just talking about Tyler, who you just met, about this, is it gives you a fresh start with not only how other people look at you, but with how you look at yourself.
Yeah.
Back in my hometown, I was Lukas. That's what people knew me as, right? In college, I was Pakter. That's what everybody called. I'm just talking about the nicknames I had.
Yeah.
Because
that's metaphorically
it was
more.
Different version. It was a different version of myself.
Yeah.
In high school, I was Lukas. I was this little pussy. I had no respect for myself. I had no friends. No girls liked me. I had no self-confidence. I literally felt worthless. And I know you mentioned my tattoo right here. I got that as well as this one right here because I was suicidal when I was a kid. Wanted to kill myself, almost did. And I'm very open about this because I love my life now. I feel like the most blessed person ever. It says it is a privilege to be alive on my arm. I write what I'm grateful for every day. But I was Lukas in my hometown, and it was this kid that just was not like happy to be here. Thought he would be doing the world a favor if he was no longer in it, save that air for somebody else. Then I get to Pakter. That's in college, new person. Obviously, when you go to college, you get to reinvent yourself again. But yeah, what really has been like the biggest change was going to Austin. Didn't know anybody there, but now I'm known as Squid Pakter in Austin. That's my social media name. My business is Squid Hoss, right? And I've been able to meet so many cool people. And most of them are older than me too, which is really interesting. And I'm sure you have a similar experience out here. There's not that many, young, successful guys out in Puerto Rico, right? Most of them are older, which allows you to have a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me going to Austin, like, most of the guys I'm hanging out with are 25 to 35. They're adults. They have like families. Like it's really cool. Right when I got there, I went to this little entrepreneur dinner that I got connected with through a guy on social media. And I pull up and it's just 12 manly ass dudes. All of them are like 6 foot and up, jacked, big ass beards, Texas as fuck.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not what I was expecting to come into. I thought I was going to be like young e-com guys. But it was so amazing because all of them like have kids and stuff. And they just like, they've been teaching me a lot of what it means to be a man and like a real man, not just like a guy with a big beard, but like a real balanced man, So that's been really cool for me. I'm curious like how your perspective on life, whether it is in terms of like a relationship standpoint or the gratitude standpoint, business standpoint, how has that changed putting yourself in this new environment out here in Puerto Rico?
It's an interesting mix of there's billionaires, there's people worth like hundreds of millions, and there's people like there's all these different tiers. And what's been helpful for me is you get to start to see what you actually want. Like what is your definition of success? Because straight up, I meet billionaires that are miserable. Like literally miserable. Like multiple billions, their own plane, all these houses, and their life's a mess for some reason. Mm. And so that's a very like humbling perspective. And then you'll meet, a guy who's worth $100 million and somehow gets to train martial arts all day and has his family thing dialed and still has a little fun. Like, this is like a real person I'm telling you about. And it's like, okay, like that's maybe a little bit more how I would want to align. So what are the things they're doing or what are the things they aren't doing? And I say it's less like hands-on. Like you don't get a lot of like, people teaching you this or that. but there's the opportunity to be really observant and pull the pieces that you want and start kind of defining your life that way.
So you get to see a lot of different people and what their life is like, and you can, I think that's a good way to put it. You get to look at a lot of different people who, to most average people, look like they have the life, and you get to see individual things like, this guy has a great relationship, but he seems like a drunk, or this guy has a very balanced life in terms of athletics and also finance, whatever. So you get to like pick little pieces from all your neighbors, essentially.
Yeah, well,
create your ultimate video game character. You could
kinda,
say.
yeah. I mean, so you think about it too. You think about how unique like 100 million net worth is. Like I don't know the actual percentage, but it's not a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And there's a handful of them like in my immediate vicinity here. And with how unique that is, that net worth, like how rare that is, there's also you're also met with the reality that person is very fucking different than the average person, and they might not come across it when you meet them, but the more you're around, like the more you're up close to this, you're like, oh, they have a drug problem, or they're like they just live to take hookers on their yacht, or what, like that's like a real thing.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing that up close, and you're kind of going, okay, well maybe that's not for me, or okay, that's worked out well for him or whatever, but there just becomes more unique case studies, and yeah, you get to kind of pull from that.
Do you feel like I'm assuming the answer is like 100% yes, but how is your contentness, how's your happiness changed moving from Seattle to Puerto Rico? I assume even the environment itself, Seattle being a dark, cloudy, cold area, to like fucking paradise out here on the beach. Nice
honestly, at first it was phenomenal because you move here and it's like it was weird. People didn't really think I like made it until they're like, oh shit, he bought like a a crazy beachfront mansion, and it's like, and I already had money for several years, but that's when I think the light bulb came on for a lot of people. But truthfully, like there was the initial spike of happiness, being here, sunshine, all of that. But then that was quickly met with like sadness. I wasn't doing enough. I'm around all these people that are doing way better than me, and I haven't done shit with my life yet. And so that was like a real thing for like a year or two. And kind of long story short, then I had like this little health thing, and it kind of made me recenter everything. And it's like, well, none of these numbers on the board actually matter, so go for the whole LifeMaxxing thing.
Nice. And that's why you're doing martial arts, all this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's a day-to-day look like for you right now?
In Puerto Rico, I'm locked in. So like I wake up, coffee, work.
What time do you wake up?
Usually like 6, 7-ish, somewhere between there. Yeah. I've been trying to push it later. We're an hour ahead of the East Coast here. I'm naturally a guy that wakes up really early, but if I wake up at 5 here, that's 4 on the East Coast and 1 a.m. on the West Coast. And so it creates too much of a weird thing. So I try to wake up between 6 and 7. I'll have coffee. I'll work for like 3 hours. And then my MMA coach will come over. We'll drill or whatever we got going on. I'll typically eat, go for a walk on the beach, kind of reset, work again. Sometimes I'll work out again in the afternoon, spend time with family, and then wind down, read, go to bed, and do it again. And that is it here.
And that seems like the life, honestly. That seems like exactly what that's exactly what I want, honestly. I do need a little more hustle because I'm younger. I still haven't had my big payday yet. That's why I'm in Austin. But something I want to shift to is, I started as an entrepreneur. That's what I've always wanted to do. But I can genuinely say hitting the record button has been the best thing I've ever done, right? Because it's opened up so many doors, right?
Yeah.
Meeting guys like you, Tyler, right? Just being able to travel, meet awesome people, having a funnel for my business. Why did you start social media? Because you had success before. I'm in a little different boat. Why did you start social media? And kind of, even though it opens up a lot of doors, creates a lot of opportunity, it also kind of opens up an opportunity to people who don't like you so much, who want to take you down, right? Why did you make the decision to put your life
publicly? Yeah, it's the world we moved into. Like the amplification of opportunity that comes with it, and from doing it the right way. Like I remember, I don't know, like I've studied the different models, like Hormozy's thing. It's like, how is he cranking out this content? And it's like, oh, because he's getting insane deals on the PE side, and like, limitless deal flow, and all these things that come from just being able to put yourself out there. And so I've never really had an issue doing it. And so the second it made sense from because that's where the world's going too. It's not going away. You're seeing creators merge with enterprise, and you're seeing enterprise leverage more and more creators. Like they're all becoming, one and the same. And so I just wanted to participate in that.
Nice. And what have the effects been like? I'm sure it's, outstanding. You have a huge following, right? And it's also very diverse too. across platforms.
Yeah, it's been dramatic, like straight up. You know, like the a lot of it too has been the indirect. Like it's not directly from this. It's like, oh, you know, that's how I met Jimmy, and that's how I met so and so, and it's just it connects you with a lot of people. So I think it's one of the best things in the world. It's quite the opportunity.
Nice. What about going back? Do you think that your younger self would be surprised at where you are now, or do you feel like you always knew from a young age, like I'm gonna be in a very good spot where I'm very happy, very successful at a young age?
That's a good question. I don't think I'd be surprised. I don't want that to sound like.
No,
like
I mean, a majority of people will hear that and be like, "Oh yeah, sure, bro." But you know, the reality is, like anyone else who's really working on themselves, they'll hear that and they'll be like, "Fuck yeah."
I mean, the truth too is like I don't feel like I've done that much. Like I know that like that, and that might sound wild too if it's like a way younger audience, but you know, I mean, like my business partner sold for $600 million. Like, you know, he got a plane.
Wow.
Like, I mean, there's just a lot of levels to it, and so
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I don't try to attach from that in one way or another. But at the same time, I don't sit here like, oh my God, I've done so much. Right? Like I think if you feel like that, you just go die, I guess.
For sure. But I guess I'm asking, like, you know, looking like when you were, you know, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you originally said at the beginning of this episode, you said, I never wanted to work for somebody else. Where did that motivation come from?
I've wondered that myself. I don't know.
Hey, that's a good answer, to be honest.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Yeah, you just always had it?
I just felt like that, yeah.
Do you think people are born with it? Because you know, in my experience, all of the guys I've interviewed, all of my friends who are young and successful, they all say the same thing. It wasn't like one day, let me get my life right. It's like, no, I
just
knew.
felt like that.
Yeah.
There might be some. I think there might be some nurture dynamic versus nature. Like my, you know.
Do you have any trauma or anything that led to like needing to prove yourself, or?
I don't think so. I mean, like I don't know. Like I couldn't, you know, girls in high school. Maybe that kind of messed me up a little bit. But generally speaking, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna go full like therapy session real quick.
Well, I think that's good. I think it's important for people to hear because, you know, I'm happy to talk about it. I heard this great quote. I think it might have been from maybe Peterson, some psychologist, I believe. He said the perfect breeding ground, essentially, for a really high achiever, someone really ambitious, is someone who, in their early days, when they were very young, had two types of people in their life. Doesn't matter who it was, but they had two types of people, two different figures in their life, two individual figures. One of them was someone who gave them unconditional love, right? Someone who, like, you could fuck up no matter what. You could have incredibly devastating mistakes. You could make these mistakes, and this person would love you unconditionally. No matter what you did, they would always be there for you. They would always support you. They would always show love. And then there was also a person who was the exact opposite, someone you didn't feel like you got the love you deserved from. The first person typically is a mom or maybe a father, someone who's just always been there for you.
That was my mom, for sure.
Yeah. Same with me. My mom, you know, unbelievable. And then the second person, it could be another family member. It could be like an ex-girlfriend or something. Was there any, like, did your motivation to always strive to be a better, not just like be successful as an entrepreneur, but, you know, a better person individually? Is there any source of needing to prove somebody wrong?
I feel like I've had to prove people wrong my whole life. I can't think of anyone specific per se, but you know, from like the basketball days to, like I said, I mean, like high school. I remember there were like 2 or 3 girls I really liked, and just no time of day whatsoever.
Yeah, I think early on, whatever you need to find that motivation is totally acceptable, right? For me, it was like an ex, another family member as well. And I think that's great to kind of get you going, right? Get the sled moving for that momentum. But ultimately, yeah, the highest form of peace is when you're doing it for yourself, because you're like, I deserve this, right? I'm not doing this to prove anybody wrong. I'm doing this because I know I can do it, you know?
And
what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't have the memories. They're just not there of those being extremely painful. Like I think at the time maybe they were, but they don't seem like big moments to me. But what I do remember is being like, I've just remember feeling most at peace and most at content was like my sophomore year of high school, when like all I did that summer was try to be as athletic as I could so I could make the team next year. Like I remember buying jump boxes, and I would run hills, and I would just do that all day. And I remember that was where I felt most at peace. Like I don't know, I just feel like I'm going for it, and I was very happy at that time. And then the next year I didn't make it. It was devastating, and then I did the same thing the next summer. And that's more or less been the story of my life until I ultimately like broke through, you know?
Yeah. But you're putting the power in your hands this time.
Yeah.
I think, well, that's interesting you say that because it was the same thing for me with high school football, right? Hardest worker. I was not athletically gifted, but, you know, I never got my shot to show it. And I made the decision right there, kind of like what you said. I said, I'm not going to ever, like, put my future in another person's hands, right?
Yeah.
Another man's hands. I'm going to be the captain of my ship, right? So I think an experience like that could be really powerful early on.
Yeah, or at least leave it all out there, right?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna know at least you did everything you could.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna wake up one day and say, "Yeah, I wish I did a little more."
What would your advice to typically someone younger be who feels like they're ambitious, they're motivated, they want to be an entrepreneur? Maybe they look at a guy like you and they're like, this is, you know, who I want to be like, but they have no idea where to start. What advice do you have for that? Where do you start?
I really think everything comes from experience. And so I'm not, like, I wouldn't even say, you know, go buy this course or that. Like, literally go open an LLC and try to do some income-making activity. And you're going to learn more in attempting to do that than you will anything else. Like, I really think experience is the greatest teacher.
Yeah, I think so many people, that's the thing though, so many people think that the first thing they do is supposed to be the one. They hear about your experience selling your company, they're like, yeah. If, you know, they think that first business needs to be the one that makes them a billionaire or whatever. But in reality, it's probably going to take a lot of tries. And that's totally okay, because as long as you're
And there's just so much to know. Like, there's so much to know. Like, I used to think when I was building Genius that I was building a $100 million business.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I didn't know what it took to build a $100 million business. Even if I thought the idea was cool, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know the layers of management you need in place. I didn't know any of that, right? And so doing it the first time enabled me like a level of knowledge that, you know, this next go around, I do know what it takes to build a $100 million company. A lot still has to go right, but again, that all came from experience and being in the field, and you know that's where you're knocking on doors that actually can like show you that way.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say. I would just get in the game in some capacity.
Nice. I agree 100%. I have another question. I think the people around you make up that environment we talked about earlier. And I think it's extremely important to put yourself in the best environment, obviously. But a lot of people think that just means physical location. They don't think about the people in their life. And then a lot of times, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to be a DJ or an athlete or an actor, 100% there's going to be a shit ton of people in your life that are not going to want you to succeed at that. And maybe it's just because their ego is hurt. Maybe it's because they don't believe in you, whatever. Do you have any advice on how to go about navigating relationships? How do you decide to keep somebody around but keep them, you know, at an arm's length distance so that they can't bring you down?
I just don't think this sounds fucked up. I just don't think there's any place for most people
Yeah.
in your life. It's actually like incredibly hard to find people that want to see you do like exceptionally well. Not just like win, but like really win. Like some people will be like, oh, he's doing pretty well, and they'll be like modestly happy. But very, very few people want to see you like become him or absolutely fucking crush it. Like most people just don't want that. But I don't know if it's their own ego or whatever. And so with that in mind, like you just got to be okay. Kind of, you know, you don't need to burn bridges, but like you're doing your thing and you're moving that direction, right? And there's not a lot of time for anything else when you're doing that.
I fully agree. I think everybody needs to get that drilled into their head. In terms of the people you've seen in your life, have you had to cut a lot of people off?
Oh, bro.
Are you still? That's a good question. Are you still friends with a lot of the people you grew up with, or
No.
not really?
Yeah. From my high school, I got one friend who, you know, worked with me at Genius, and he's still there, and we're still friends. But you know, we're not the same level of friends, and then that's literally the only one.
Yeah. I think it's hard. You can't bring everyone with you, and I think a lot of
You can't bring anyone with you.
It's dead weight.
Yeah, you can't bring
honestly,
anyone
and a
with
lot of
you.
people are like, oh, well, you know, I want to be with my day ones or whatever. But you know, the truth is, like, they probably weren't ever your friend to begin with. You guys were kind of just landlocked by your physical location, being in the same classroom, whatever, and you really weren't that similar.
But
they
you
weren't
see those
looking out for
people,
you.
right? Like you see those friends that didn't leave. They're still all friends. That still aren't doing shit. They're still
everyone.
in the same group.
Most
Yeah.
people in your hometown, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mine. It's like literally, I'm 31 now, and it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same suspects. And like, it's all love with me. Like, it's not anything bad. But I'm just saying, if you're a young guy that wants to go for it and like, do something with it, then that's not you. You literally can't carry that.
Yeah,
It'll hold you back.
it will. All right, I have one question that I ask every single person I have on my podcast. Usually at the end, I stole this from that entrepreneur group I was talking about. What's one thing you hold to be true that you think everybody else would certainly disagree with? And you can take your time too.
One thing I hold true. I don't even know if there's truth. Like maybe that statement.
Yeah, what's something that's true to you that you believe in that a lot of maybe something like that you think.
Literally that I don't think there's truth.
Can you expand?
Yeah, like if you look at it from like a scientific perspective, like you can hold things to be true until they're not. Like that's how science works. It needs to be falsifiable by nature. And so with that in mind, like I don't think there's any definitive truth. And I think a lot of people think there's definitive truth. I think there's a lot of like gray around the world, what's good, what's not. And then as you move through time, like, yeah.
Oh, so your answer is actually like you're really breaking down the question itself.
Yeah.
Nice, I like that.
I don't know if that's the right good answer or not. That's
No, I appreciate that. I think I think everyone in their own life, they're born with a set of values or a perspective, and they never change, and they're not willing to accept anybody else's ideology, whether it be on relationships or business or drive, ambition, whatever, friendships. So I think that's important, and I think you can't try and change other people as well. Like so many people will spend all of their time and energy trying to convince somebody else of something, but you kind of just have to do your own thing. And I think that's the best way to stay focused.
Most people don't change. That's correct.
Yeah. This is another question that I like to ask a lot of people. I think when you're someone that is always really hard on yourself because you want to see yourself become, the man, him, right? How do you balance compassion and motivation for those around you? Let's say it's a friend or a cousin, or maybe it's your kid in 10 years. Like, you want to see someone succeed just as bad as you want yourself to succeed. What's the best way to go about, getting a friend on the right track?
Honestly, I think you have to align incentives, because if you look at it from, honestly, one of my bigger things, like I check pretty high on like the empathy stuff. I do, and the most successful people are not very empathetic.
Not at all.
They're often calculated near psychopathic levels. Not always like full psychopathic, but very, very low on the empathy scale. And so I think the answer to that is you have to align incentives. Otherwise, it comes down to it's often cold answers. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you have to make sure that person is incentivized to be rowing in the same direction as you. Otherwise, it comes down to like sacrifice, and you're probably not going to be the thing. You might not like the guys that are building the billion-dollar companies have ripped so many hearts out that aren't talked about.
Yeah.
Like Bill Gates used to buy out companies and sue companies, and none of that's really talked about, but that is the nature. Like Amazon's like that, lawsuits, this, that, like aggressive buyouts, shutting down competitors, diaper.com, oh fuck you, we'll buy you, we'll shut you down. Like that's generally the game if you want to go like all the way to the top.
And do you think that's needed, necessary?
I think so.
High achievers?
I'd love to say it's not.
You think? Yeah, I mean that's a fair answer. You think there needs to be a level of ruthlessness in business and in order to succeed yourself, as if it was like conquering in the old days. Like you can't build your kingdom without knocking out a few neighbors, type thing.
If you're talking billions, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I look at the closest guy that I'm very close to, from closest to billions is my one business partner that sold for a couple, hundreds. And he really is. He's calculated, and it's not even in a malicious or evil way. He's just like, oh, no, that person is not doing a good job. They need to, we will fire them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I might employ someone for 3 months because I feel bad, And I noticed that inherent difference in demeanor, and so I can only imagine if you're with a Bezos, like there's zero room for chit chat or nice guy stuff.
Yeah.
And so I do think when you're getting to billions and that level, I think it's a whole different emotional profile.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely necessary. But what about for those really close to you? Like, let me ask you, you're a young father. When your kid grows up, I'm sure, same with me, all you want is your kid to succeed, right? You would love to inspire your kid in a way for them to want to go out and do big things, right? But what if they just don't want to? How do you change someone like that? Or do you just let them? Do you just say, hey, be happy?
Let me zoom out on that whole question too, because it's like most of those same profiles, like Bezos divorced.
Yeah.
Like they have
Elon
like,
Musk.
Yeah, like 7
Steve Jobs.
kids. Yeah,
Terrible fathers.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
And so again, it ties back to like the LifeMaxxing of what you want. And so I think there's like how can you accumulate level of wealth and power that maybe still lets you be the other things you want to be if those things are important to you. So like Steve Jobs, I'm sure that shit was never important to him. He didn't want the child, right?
Yeah.
And so like he was open about that and he owned it and that was his truth and that was his life. So I think everyone's different on that piece of it. But I guess my whole thing is just like if you're getting to that level, it requires a level of ruthlessness and lack of compassion. And I didn't answer the question either. I went on a whole different thing. If you want a child to do something, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. How are you balancing yourself as a parent? Because this is a question, I haven't even met the one yet, but I'm actually genuinely curious about that. And I'm not so much worried, but I'm very eager to become a father. I think that is like the most true form of happiness at the end of the day. Like it is the only thing that really matters. And I'm curious, how you're going about being a father, but also trying to chase your dreams too. I even had a dad that kind of ran off and started a company for a little bit instead of being a parent. And
my answer probably isn't like cool in popular culture, but I think it's like, and you look through history, it's largely been the woman's job to raise the house. Like period. Even my wife, she says she feels more comfortable with the nanny and with women, like raising a village, so to speak. I think guys' job is to inherently have enough resources to make sure everyone's good and solid and sound. And that takes work. And that takes like things that aren't directly raising the kids, which is a weird answer. But babies come out and they're dependent on mothers. Like they're dependent on them for food. They breastfeed. They cry for their mom for several years. And I think what you can do as a guy is, it's how you act. Like that's the first male model they see in their life. And that's their expectation for men. So how do you treat your wife? How do you carry yourself? Are things taken care of? Like all the things that would be the masculine archetype, I think by maximizing those, you're doing the most good for your family. That makes sense.
And it's funny, absolutely. And it's funny because a lot of people don't like that answer.
No, they hate it,
especially
probably.
Americans. There's a lot solid portion, maybe even more than half of Americans these days, they're disgusted by that answer.
Like you're supposed to split the diapers and you're supposed to do this.
Yeah, but
and that.
Like who says so, right? I don't know. I still haven't even figured out how I want to be a parent yet.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm comfortable with my life, right?
Yeah.
Like all the people who ridicule that, like you probably don't like your own life.
Yeah.
So why? So like my wife likes her life. I like my wife. Like we have a great thing.
Yeah.
We get to live on an island and we can go take a family vacation in a fucking jet and so I don't. It's important to not listen to all those answers.
Absolutely, and that's hard. That's really hard. I think that might be one of the biggest problems that young people are dealing with these days is so many people on social media are trying to tell you how to live your life, and
they haven't done shit. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's true.
And they might not even be happy. Like I think most people that are telling you how to live your life are not happy.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and so how do you? I don't know. It's tough. It's a challenge. Like trying to figure out how to navigate that world, and it's interesting because it's only going to get worse. It's becoming more polarized. Like, I think I'm a very balanced person, right? And I have a very balanced perspective on life. But a lot of people hate. I mean a lot of people love what I say. A lot of people hate what I say too.
But that's good. I mean, that's how you build an audience, right? But I think there's you have some truth that's meaningful in some capacity. And I think the simple answer at the end of the day is if someone doesn't have what you want, then why would you listen to them? If they haven't done what you want to do, why would you listen to them? Period. If you want a stable home life with 3 kids, and then go listen to the person that's done that. Mm-hmm. And don't listen to any of the other noises or voices or whatever, because it's often internet weirdos that philosophize on some shit and have never done it in the real world.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of people out there that all they will do is sit on Twitter or Instagram or Threads, and they'll just talk shit about others, about how this person's a bigot, about this,
and that's why that mute button is, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great invention.
Yeah.
I don't mute them. I like to listen to it sometimes.
I think it's funny. I think it's entertaining. When your kids get older, are they going to be allowed to be on social media?
Yeah.
what sort of shielding or protection are you gonna provide versus like, are you gonna say like, yo, do whatever the fuck you want, figure it out on your own?
Like, I mean, I think what you can do as a parent is try to give the guardrails and like a baseline level of understanding. Like I like to tell my daughter now, like that's an ad. Like if you're, this is an ad. This is designed to. So how would you make an ad? I'd rather, because it's such a prevalent part of life. Like it's unrealistic to say you can't use this or don't use that. Like they'd grow up different and not a good way. And so I think you need to give them the guardrails and the understanding of the technology and then try to let them figure it out without too much forcible micromanagement, because they'll rebel. I mean, like, I don't know how you were as a kid, but if someone told me I'm not going to do something, it was like, I wanted to do it more. Like that, I think a lot of kids are like that. And so if I tell my kids, like, hey, you can't be on this, then, when they go to their friend's house or like eventually they're going to want to do it that much more. And so I think giving them the guardrails and the best perspective I can is what I'll do, and then Jesus take the wheel from there. It's a scary world. I don't know what to tell you.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate that answer, and I think you're right about that. So to kind of finish it off, though, once again, you've done a lot. You seem very happy, very content, right? But what's like the ultimate form of success to you? What's something that you need, like a couple things you need to accomplish before your time ends, that you would be severely upset if you didn't, disappointed if you
I think it's almost on like a day-by-day basis. Like if it ended right now, have I done am I happy with how I've lived thus far?
Have you made the most of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you made the most of it? Because we don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to look at it through that lens. And then if you're trying to like goal set or whatever, if we're sitting here, it's like, okay, let's assume we get to 90 or 100, and it's like on our deathbed, what were the things we really wanted to do and what mattered? And that's why, I told you like, oh yeah, I'd love to do the St. Bart's thing or that, or, you know what I mean? Like I have my things I'd like to do and I'm going to keep building towards those. But again, with a level of detachment from the actual result, because if it does get cut short or fate whisks you some other direction, like you can't let that make you unhappy and ruin the current experience we do have. Because what's your arm say?
It is a privilege to be alive.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I like that. I think you need to live every day. I mean, I try and live every day, assuming like if I found out that I had 24 hours left, I'd be like, you know what, that sucks, but I did all I could.
Yeah.
I tried to the most. And I think everyone can do that. You don't need to be an entrepreneur or a social media star or whatever. You don't need to have a ton of money. Maybe your hobby is like trains or something, but I think you just have to, you really just need to live. You need to live every single day as if it were your last. But, you can't let that also distract you from like the bigger picture as well. Totally. That's a hard balance. Well, hell yeah, man, dude. I think that's a great way to end it, unless you got anything else to kind of throw in there.
No,
do you have one last piece of general advice to the audience? Most of my audience is young. They're guys, they're ambitious, they're trying to get after it. I kind of asked this question already, but what's one other thing that maybe you talk about on your socials or something that's not spoken nearly enough that is like an absolute necessary?
I would say, seriously, like stay tapped in with you, because on that note, like use social as a tool, meaning unfollow all the trash or anything that triggers any sort of response that's not making you better.
Yeah.
Now, I really believe that. So I think like for a lot of people, they should straight up delete social. They're getting nothing out of it. It's a cheap dopamine thing. But the ones that are on there, like, the kind of stuff you're putting out is phenomenal. The kind of stuff, there's people out there that are doing good things in social, and people need to program themselves to absorb that and build towards that rather than ruining their lives with cheap dopamine addiction. So that's what I'd leave them with.
Hell yeah. Follow Squid Pakter. Follow Rob Oliver too, at the Genius CEO. Well, dude, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me to your house, dude. This setup was awesome. Inspired. I love this stuff. I love meeting cool people. Once again, like the whole reason I do this is just to meet awesome people. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, man. Seriously, we'll do it again eventually. Appreciate it.
Subscribe, leave a like, comment. If you want to see the next one, obviously make sure you put it in your notifications. But thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions for Rob, I'm going to leave all his socials in the description. You can go hit up his pages, give him a follow. But thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.